Sorry, ma'am? You what?
I just saw 4 big rigs. One exploded and one went off the freeway.
Oh, okay. You just saw an accident.
Saw a big rig. One of them blew out.
All right, that works. So tell me about tonight.
Just before 11 o'clock this evening, we did have reports of multi-semi collision in the southbound truck lanes of the I-5 freeway where they transition with the 14 freeway. Right now, we've got approximately 15 semis that are involved in about a quarter-mile stretch of freeway. 5 of them are fully involved inside the tunnel. Right now, crews are making entry into that area, effecting rescues and attempting to extinguish the fire.
We got the call, actually. Initially, the call we got was not on the tunnel fire. That night, there was also another incident on Route 5 at Scott Road. There was an overturned truck.
Sam was going to respond to the jackknife. And en route to the jackknife, he encountered congestion or backup.
Well, to get to that, I have to go by the tunnel. So once I came upon the tunnel and I saw fire coming out from both ends, all right, well, I called them back and I said, forget about that other thing at Scott Road. We need to deploy all our resources here. So I get up to the tunnel. I see actually fire coming out of both ends, and I see the CHP officers telling me, stand back, we hear some cracking and popping, and we don't know if the structure is going to give way.
Live from NBC4, this is the Channel 4 News at 11.
Tonight, an inferno on Interstate 5 caused by a big rig pileup. And tonight, there's no word on when California's major traffic artery can be reopened.
Caltrans intends to get the roadway up and running as quickly as possible, but structural engineers have to first make sure the area is sound.
It does depend when we can get in there. That is going to be a critical factor in making this determination. But based on our field inspection here this afternoon, we are looking to get the southbound lanes of I-5 opened by Tuesday morning.
You know, it was very helpful to have Will there that first night. One very important executive decision was shoring or not. But Will came in, he immediately made an executive decision that our foremost criteria is protecting the public. We will shore, we will take that issue away, we'll make sure the public's safe, and that freed our engineers to no longer be stuck in this decision-making spiral of shoring or not. Simple, clear direction is so important. People can rally around them, we can move forward, and that one decision that early, I think, was very critical to us moving ahead as we did.
By Saturday afternoon, I believe after Will Kempton had come down to the scene, he sent a letter of intent to the Federal Highway Administration with his intent to have this declared as a disaster. And the governor immediately followed suit with a letter and with a declaration making this a state disaster.
It was very important for the public and the media to understand that this particular incident was declared an emergency by the governor, and that made more funds available to use for its repair.
At the command post, of course, we're getting asked the questions, or one of the questions that was posed by me is, when can we get the freeway open? The response came back is, we don't know what kind of damage has been done to the structure.
First of all, we have to assess what is the existing conditions after the damage from the fire.
And Quan has the team of his people, and now we're coming up with a plan with fire. Fire tells us, we need your engineers to go in the tunnel and actually ascertain and tell us if it's safe to reopen.
Good evening, I'm Sylvia Lopez with Juan Fernandez. A news conference on the truck inferno has just started right now.
Let's listen in. To ask the public for their patience in this. We are making a lot of progress, and we are moving along, and we are going to have some good news to talk about. And to bring on the good news, I'm going to bring on District 7 Caltrans Director, Doug Phelan.
Thank you, Warren. I'll talk specifically about the structure and the detours that we have in place. We've made great progress through the day. Again, our thanks go out to the...
You know, this is one of those things where you always see on TV and you think that they could never be real, but it is real. You walk up and there's just this sea of microphones in front of you. And there's this sea of cameras and reporters behind that, all shouting out questions.
For us at Caltrans, the state of emergency allows us to use emergency contracting procedures so that we can bring in contractors to begin working immediately on removing the debris, doing the shoring, and making immediate repairs so we can restore public traffic.
When you have an incident, when you have something like this happen to large public works, the public has to question whether the government's doing the best they can for you. Us being able to get out there immediately and do the shoring and do the work and pull the all-nighters necessary to get the main line open on Monday morning restore some of that confidence.
We will continue working through the night and we'll assess the progress the contractor makes, and we hope to have good news for you tomorrow morning as well about how the northbound main line is progressing. We're doing coring at this point in time to do more specific analysis on the strength remaining in the concrete. Because of the intense heat, we would like to determine what changes that may have made within the concrete itself. What strength does the concrete still have? We'll also be taking samples of the steel reinforcing bar that was exposed to determine that it still has the strength that we would anticipate.
When we showed up on the site, within half an hour we had cores being taken out of the concrete in the damaged areas. We knew, we put everybody to work immediately, full well knowing we'd be there for at least a couple of days taking samples throughout.
Tom Pyle and his folks were there, and I began talking to them about the concrete color itself had changed to a more salmon color. It was what we call it, salmon, pinkish hue. A lot of different people call it different things, but we call it a salmon color. And they were able to inform me that salmon coloration like that, it primarily happens when the concrete wall has been in contact and heated up to a temperature between 500 and 550 degrees for an extended period of time.
We were looking at the concrete and that blast furnace effect and taking all that into account. There were these blowouts, these pocked blowouts that were from a few inches in diameter to perhaps a couple feet in diameter. And we couldn't figure out why the concrete had exploded off of the wall. And as it turned out, talking with the fire investigators, we learned in that particular case that when the concrete got hot and the firemen were blowing water, spraying water into the tunnel as they would hit the wall, it would cause rapid cooling of the concrete and cause the concrete to essentially blow off as it was rapidly contracting with respect to everything else around it.
We use a geology hammer, and that's the time we only have that kind of a tool available to do the initial assessment. So we can sound the concrete. For the sounding on the normal concrete, and when you use a hammer, and you'll hear the sound coming back from the concrete in a really solid, good, ringing sound. But when you hit it on a really deteriorated or like a crumbled concrete, first of all, the concrete will just crumble under the hammer. And then the sound coming back from that crumbled concrete is really soft or very hollow.
Didn't know from a designer perspective when we finally were called in and said, we need you guys to come up with a solution quickly. And there was a lot of pressure to beat what had been done on the maze.
The incident itself really wasn't a MacArthur maze. It was very different than a MacArthur maze, and a lot of people were trying to associate it in their own mind with a MacArthur maze type of thing.
The tunnel was different than the maze in that at the maze there was a fire burning, but it was open to the atmosphere. It was like a barbecue that with no top on it, that the heat was released straight up into the atmosphere. In this particular fire in the tunnel, while it was burning, the heat was contained inside an insulated box essentially. And it also burned for quite a long time beyond what it had at the maze, to a point where the aluminum was melting. The aluminum parts of the vehicles were totally gone.
The problem became, how do we explain to people at a non-technical level so they would understand the process we had to go through, why it was a different contracting process, why we had to come, and why it took longer to come up with that final repair strategy versus the immediate strategy.
And I believe that it was our chief engineer, Rick Land, who said that the investigation was more like cancer.
Rick Land was struggling with how to do it, and he and I talked about it one night. His comment to me was he was thinking about starting to explain it as the MacArthur Maze was a hip replacement. It was very easy to see what you could do. You knew exactly what you had to do. It's a more routine type of thing. We do it all the time. In this case, it was more like cancer surgery. You really had to get into the patient, you had to open them up, you had to look around, you had to see what you had inside of it, and then make the decisions on what you were going to do to repair the damage, because it wasn't readily apparent, wasn't easily visible, and you really had to do some analysis, some forensic analysis of what was happening internally in order to have a good idea what you had to make a decision on how to make it right.
When it breaks, we got to fix it right away. And if that huge organization focuses everything they have on that one issue, and that's what happened here, then what you're really seeing is that major organization that's always in place. You're seeing all that energy focused on one objective, and that's when it occurs. That's when people are astounded. But that's the kind of thing that Caltrans does every day. It's just they do it on 50 things at once instead of one.
Contract that we did for the tunnel repair project, that was an informal bid project.
So with informal bidding process, it means pretty much we go through all the steps of preparing the plans. You don't skip anything. You don't get any breaks. Everything has to be done like any conventional project.
Based on the MacArthur Maze project, they had I think a 9% or 10% small business participation in that emergency repair, so they wanted to do the same thing here. And in fact, I went up, that's one of the questions I went up and asked Doug, do you want the small business? And he said yes.
When Will Kempton at the statewide council, Small Business Council, had been informing and asking the units that have the responsibility to give some thought to a mandatory pre-bid process, this emergency and unfortunate situation presented an opportunity. And Will seized that opportunity to say, let's utilize, I would like this process to also have the mandatory pre-bid process overlaid on the informal bid process.
The challenges was the very short time frame that we need to respond to issues, basically. We are talking here about hours instead of talking about days or weeks to get a response to the contractor.
It's just an amazing project. This is the first time I've been involved to that massive project that is taking the duration of 2 weeks. So everything that you experience in construction that you see that goes to 3-4 years was just happening simultaneously.
Tuesday they corrected all the stuff, and we worked with the designers. On Tuesday night, about 11:30 something, I think, we submitted our plans to headquarters. They had a quick look over on Wednesday. On Thursday morning, they started printing the bid books for the contractors.
Like I said, we did 6 to 9 months work minimum, probably within a week, and that's really a credit to the people that were involved that put the time and effort into this project.
The nice part about working for Caltrans is you have experts in every field, and most people that we work with are very much willing to share the information and willing to share the knowledge with me. I love working for Caltrans for this reason. I really thrive on learning a lot, as much as I can in any situation that I can learn in. And this is the case. It really gives me the opportunity to grow professionally.
Tonight, a light at the end of the tunnel in the Newhall Pass. Caltrans says the tunnel, which closed after a deadly fire, should reopen next month. 3 people died and dozens of trucks piled up in the crash 3 weeks ago. And the southbound truck lane tunnel has been closed ever since. Workers will have it reopened by Thanksgiving weekend or maybe earlier. And if they do, we're told a $3 million bonus will kick in.
And from that kickoff meeting, the same day the contractor said he's going to start the same night, even though the contract started the next day. That's how we started. Immediately work started, and that's when I knew that oh my God, it's not going to be as easy as I thought. It's going to be very challenging, and we had good staff, and we had good support. Management was very supportive, and that helped a lot.
The tunnel had the two abutment walls, the two walls of the tunnel. When we started doing excavation work, they were so concerned that the whole tunnel is gonna buckle from below. The structure on top being, as it is, but they're buckled. So they put beams across at the bottom.
I mean, I have never seen such effort, both the Caltrans and the contractor. I was proud. I was truly proud to see that, and I think it's one of those amazing projects that you I don't know, maybe you see it once in your lifetime.
We knew that certain parts of the structure, we could determine, I guess from the damage assessment, that certain parts of the structure were affected more by the damage than others. We made some engineering decisions to move forward and totally repair the superstructure, or replace the superstructure for the first 90-some feet of the north entrance to the tunnel.
We still didn't know exactly the extent of the damage on the walls, and we didn't have a good strategy for what needed to be done on the walls. We used water blasting technique, which is a fairly powerful technique actually for removal operations. They set up this device, and we would adjust the pressure and adjust the style of the nozzle to either get a very direct pointed stream of water, a high pressure direct pointed stream of water, which could eat very quickly through the concrete. And so we came up with the idea that if we could somehow start removing, in a controlled fashion, removing the surface concrete to see how far back in it easily came off, that would give us an idea as to what we had, what structural concrete we had remaining. Certainly using, I think, water demolition as a diagnostic tool proved to be a very successful mechanism, and really helped us to make the decisions we needed to make in order to meet the schedule that we had to meet.
When we were in that tunnel and there was no light, and obviously the walls were dark from the soot. It was black and it was dark, no question about it. The question that kept occurring to me is, what if the lights went out again? Look, we've got a dark tunnel. Is there some way that we can solve this problem? Provide good visibility and safety? Well, what had occurred to me at that point was, why didn't we try something new, which is called white cement?
We're talking about metakaolin, and they go, oh, that stuff is so hard to work with. It's really fluffy, and it takes a lot of it to do the mitigation that you're talking about. And I'm going, well, that's what Tom Pyle wants, and we want it to be white cement.
It was very, very important that we listened to the public very clearly. And the fact that you thought the tunnel was dark and dangerous, we're going to fix. Modern tunnel lighting, white cement, this is the brightest tunnel that's ever been. This is going to be as bright as we can make it. We hear what the public says, and we're listening to you.
And it became clear that the only successful solution that we were going to proceed with was the precast girders, was to replace the whole superstructure.
That's the fastest way to replace that structure. And one of the things we did when we had made the decision to replace the superstructure is check to see if precast girders of the size that we needed would be readily available, how quickly we could get them out to the job site.
The girders were delivered way ahead of time, so the supplier did a hell of a job, and they really deserve a lot of credit.
They had to over-excavate inside the tunnel, and once they did that, they discovered that it wasn't nice, solid dirt.
We had so much water in the grade, in the subgrade. So when the contractor was removing the damaged roadway, the existing concrete and asphalt, we found that no matter what the contractor did, he has to, the compaction will fail. It does not meet.
There was unsuitable material. It was pumping, meaning it was so soft. It's like sand. You step on one side, it will, the other side will bulge up. Something, you encounter something and said, okay, what do you want to do? You can't just say, let me call up and I'll get back with you tomorrow. Tomorrow is not a response. There's no way. Give it to me in about 5 minutes. I got a guy or my equipment is there waiting.
I got a phone call in the middle of the night saying, Kirsten, it's mud out here. What do we do?
And we discussed it and gave us a solution that was so helpful that we were able to do the work.
Fortunately, on other projects, we'd been able to use filter fabric and aggregate base, taken that fabric and wrapped it over the top to build a kind of a burrito type system.
Or a bridge. You can call it bridging.
But
sometimes.
It creates kind of a bridge. It distributes the load of the construction equipment over this fabric and aggregate base so that you don't have your equipment sinking in mud.
So part of the issue that we had to discuss is how do they want to proceed in paving that whole tunnel, not putting any kind of equipment. The space is only so much from abutment wall to abutment wall that you cannot pave one side and then you can start putting your equipment there, your paving machine or your concrete trucks, and start the paving, because that has to have a certain amount of cure time.
I was on board a lot of it, but I could only work so many hours a day. I mean, I was out there literally, in some instances, 20 hours. Now, quality control group, which was Twining Labs, they were required to be out there 24/7 to monitor the placement. I believe it was every 125 cubic meters they would take a sample. But somebody was there to watch the lay down placement, either Amjad Obid's inspection group. Somebody was always there during the placement of the lean.
One of the big problems is how do we do a quality job with the concrete and get it reopened to traffic and have it have the strength that it needs so that it doesn't fail as soon as traffic gets on it. Los Angeles, the District 7 people are really on the cutting edge of using these fast-setting materials to reopen lanes to traffic within a very short amount of time. It's basically the same spec that LA has been using for the last 10 years, was the spec that we used to repair the tunnel.
In the construction practice of the tunnel, I mean, there were so many different constructions going on. There was electrical going on in there where they were putting on the lights, and they wanted to move those lifts. They wanted to drive those on our new pavement, and we had to stand there and stop them and say you couldn't until it was cured the proper amount of time to meet the strength. But I was there to watch the process, checking the vibration, checking the water in the trucks, making sure they weren't adding water, because technically they're not supposed to. It was an interesting job in that respect of monitoring the concrete trucks, checking the time that they were batched, checking to make sure that they had plenty of time to unload, the rev count was low, and the consistency of the mud.
So the electrical contractor, I give them a lot of credit. They really pushed it. They worked around the clock 24 hours. They made sure that they put their conduits. They made sure that the fabrication of those fixtures, 500 plus fixtures, were delivered on time. And on time, it means they had to be in a certain time in order to have it tested along with the other equipment.
The thing that was surprising to me was to see how much damage was to that pavement, and then I was able to take all the tools that we had been using for a long time now, and I got good answers from the design group. I gave them options, and they chose to go with a new structural section so that we could bring the pavement section that's in that tunnel to meet a current standard. And that was a design decision to use the current standard for the pavement. So that was a really interesting element.
I had a chance to work with a great people, well-motivated people, Caltrans staff really were great. Exceeded our expectations.
If I want to sum up this tunnel fire incident, I think 2 words. It's teamwork and leadership.
Also, I saw how well we interacted as an organization. I saw how quick and how responsible all our functional units were. Just shows how wonderful we work behind the scene as a team to achieve whatever we have in mind in achieving.
The southbound truck tunnel that was destroyed in last month's fiery collision has reopened, and that should relieve the traffic logjam tomorrow morning.
A lot of very happy drivers. The contractors had 33 days to finish the job. That's what Caltrans said. They did it in about half. Now the trucks are going on that bypass route right now as we speak. Opened about an hour and a half ago. And the contractors got a real big bonus, and the tunnel was significantly improved. This tunnel has come a long way in a short time since this fiery crash left the tunnel severely damaged. Its closure forced semis to share the road with cars, causing massive delays. But the contractors who took on the job finished rebuilding the tunnel ahead of schedule, resulting in many happy drivers and a generous bonus.
We're able to complete the project in 16 days, which is fantastic. Completing it today does earn the contractor the maximum bonus. Yeah, you're welcome.
That equals $2.9 million for opening the tunnel today. But the tunnel isn't what it used to be. Caltrans says it's better. The tunnel walls are painted white, and there is substantially more lighting with high-tech features throughout.
You can make the adjustment in how much light is needed in the tunnel for weather conditions, a cloudy day, a rainy day, versus just daytime, nighttime settings. So we've got a real-time adjustment set up in the system on how the lighting will be in the tunnel.
The speed limit has also been reduced from 55 miles per hour to 45, and there is a sensor to alert drivers to their speed before entering the tunnel.
Slower speed limits always make it safer, always make it easier for people to stop. What's more important than the slower speed is a uniform speed, because when you get cars and trucks mixed and you get people going at different speeds, that's what really creates the greatest amount of danger.
The contractor had 33 days to get this job done, but Caltrans offered a major financial incentive if this job was finished before the busy Thanksgiving holiday travel season.
So a lot of credit goes to our Caltrans team who were in the office and in the field, at the plant, looking at the material, witnessing the testing, doing the calculations, giving the okay that this girder is okay or this machine is okay. Without their cooperation, there's no way, I really say it with sincerity, there's no way the contractor would have met that day.
At 4:20 this afternoon, amid honking horns and clouds of construction dust, the first trucks rolled through the Newhall Pass tunnel that had been closed since the deadly crash and fire last month.
Today is a very good day for us at Caltrans in the state of California. You know, I got into this business because I love seeing traffic move, and I'm very happy to be here today.
They're so relieved, and the workers have worked so fast on that.
Yes, we thank them.